You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
In just a few short years, Stacey Q went from riding elephants in the circus to having a top 5 single on the Billboard charts. The popularity of Two of Hearts led to a plethora of television cameos, but unfortunately not another hit song. This week, we explore all things Q to decide if we beat as one in our fandom of Stacey.
My body's burning, so come on, heed my desire. Come on, come on. Two of hearts that beat as one. Two of hearts, I need you.
One hit is all you need to make the money guaranteed, and you can live off royalties forever. And it makes me wonder, is it just a wonder, or is it one hit thunder?
Matt, do you think that people consider us the Two of Hearts?
I think so.
I don't know. That was the dumbest beginning ever. It doesn't matter. I'm excited about this episode. I'm a fan of this song, Stacey Q. I'm not even going to beat around the bush here. I think I suggested this, right?
This was voted on by the Patreon as
Okay.
one of your suggestions, and it was like I think it got 80% of the vote.
Yeah.
People were ready for this. The only song that even came close, aka got any other votes, was I had Timbuk 3 in there with My Future's So Bright I Gotta Wear Shades.
Okay, yeah, this is way better. I need you.
Let me ask you a question right out the gate.
Okay.
Because I'm sure you figured this out from your research. We did a lot of the same research, but like this song appeared in a lot of shit.
Yep.
What is the thing that you think of most though when you hear this song?
When I hear the song, see, I sent you a bunch of links today when we were getting ready for this because Stacey Q popped up in a lot of sitcoms.
Yes.
And I guess I remember the Full House thing. She didn't perform on Full House. She was just like signing autographs. I thought her performance on Facts of Life was so freaking weird. It was just like her performing this song in like a dance studio by herself, and Tootie is looking in the window at her, just like longingly. I don't know what the backstory was. Like maybe Tootie wanted to be a pop star.
It's also weird because she's singing only Stacey Q songs, but she's not Stacey Q.
Cinnamon.
She's a pop singer named Cinnamon.
Right.
And she was utilized as a way to write off George Clooney's character from Facts of Life. He left the show to be her roadie.
Yep, that was in a later episode. She performed a different song. But yes, then George Clooney left the show because he was going to be Cinnamon's roadie, which that's pretty awesome. But we got to talk about Stacey Q's story a little bit because this is one of the best. One of the best.
I want to answer this question because this is how I first heard this song. I missed Two of Hearts Fever.
Wow.
I discovered this song and Stacey Q when I watched the movie Hot Rod with Andy Samberg. And there's the scene where it's like after they do their first like big successful stunt show, it cuts to a car in a parking lot and they're listening to Two of Hearts and Bill Hader's like doing this punch dance.
Yeah. I didn't remember that was Two of Hearts.
Yeah, they're like having like a party in the parking lot of a convenience store and it's Two of Hearts playing on the radio. And I was like, this song fucking rules.
That's awesome. I didn't remember that. That's really, really good. But Stacey Q, whose real name is Stacey Lynn Swain, she's from Orange County. And her interesting fact, her mother bred Welsh corgis that have appeared in many Hollywood films and TV. Who'd have known? But she became the youngest member of the dance theater of Orange County, and she performed at multiple Disneyland Christmas fantasy parades. Like, yeah, I don't know what that is. I don't get all.
We'll hit up Gelsey. Gelsey can fill us in on that.
You probably get all into Disney.
I don't get into the parades like that. Like, I like going to Disney World. I like going on the rides. I love watching the Disney animated movies and all that stuff. But there are people, like, I know people who are like, oh, I've got to go to the Disney World in December to see their Christmas parade that happens, or I've got to make sure I'm there every October for their Villains Night. Like, there are people who are like die hard about that piece of it. I just want to ride the Haunted Mansion.
What's wrong
a bunch.
with those people? I love
they want to live in a magical world.
Friend of the show, Tony Hartman. I love his imitation of people that love Disney. Disney. I love Disney. I don't get the Disney thing. I mean, I'm sure there are a few Disney things I've liked along the way. I mean, Disney ended up buying a lot of stuff, but as far as like being like the people that like get married or like go on their honeymoon to Disney, I would be like, what is wrong with you? That was the best thing you could come up with?
I can't say that I wouldn't do a honeymoon in Disney, but I definitely wouldn't get married in Disney.
Why would you go to, of all places?
Because you get to see all the world at Epcot. It's a freaking, it's like a whole European trip in one place.
Trap. That's what you want to do is go to an overpriced tourist trap? What's wrong with you?
I don't know. I'm not saying, look, I don't plan on getting married to begin with. I'm just saying if the opportunity came up, I'm always like, hey, I'll go to Disney. Speaking on like doing the Disneyland stuff, then she started working for Ringling Brothers.
Yes, that part is crazy. So she performed as a showgirl in her first year and then as an elephant rider in her second year.
Is this where we talk about the Howie Mandel clip that you sent me that reminded me that Howie Mandel should never host a talk show again?
Oh my God, dude, it is. I mean, believe Howie Mandel's my boy. Don't get me wrong.
But that was rough.
I forgot. Did I ever even know that he had a talk show at some point? I don't think
it had. I'm going to see. I bet it was super short-lived.
Yeah.
I'm willing to bet it was like a one-season show that he did.
But yeah, it is just dumb joke after dumb joke. Like, it's weird.
How do you spell your last name is his first question.
Oh, yeah. That was really funny. What was kind of funny, I guess, was she talked about the elephant that she rode in the circus that was named Gilda, but the press, I guess maybe in the UK or something, the press said it was another name and she wouldn't say what the name was. And then she whispered it in Howie's ear and he said, dildo. and then he's like, they said that you were riding a dildo in the circus. That was actually the one kind of funny thing from that. But yes, she performed on there as well. She didn't perform Two of Hearts. She performed a different song, Insecurity. And she has very huge hair, which made me think a lot about like that huge hair of the 80s. That would kind of be cool if you were like dating a girl who had like the huge hair. Like that might be neat to have like, you know, if you're like making out or something, you were just like covered in this giant amount of hair. You know, I just think that could be kind of neat.
I definitely thought, I mean, we're going to get into a little bit of Matt Kelly's sexual awakening later in this episode. But even like when you sent me the Facts of Life episode and she was like dancing, I was like, man, she is a pretty person. Like she is just like a undeniably gorgeous person with like, and I'm the same. I'm not one who's much for like the giant 80s poofed out permed hair, but for some reason I'm like, it looks great on her.
Sure.
But like one of the few where I'm like, that doesn't bother me as much as it normally does.
Yeah. No, I think she looks cool. Anyway, in 1981, after some elephant riding, which, hey man, it was the 80s. I think now we know that maybe you shouldn't be like taking elephants around on display and subjecting them to all that. It's pretty messed up.
Yeah.
It was 1980. I'm not going to hold that against Stacey Q. She was just young and ride an elephant. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
In 1981, she met John St. James, who was the owner of Casbah Recording Studio, where acts such as Berlin and Social Distortion had recorded. And he was developing a synth pop group called Q. And Stacey became the lead singer of Q, even though she considers herself more of a dancer than a singer. So John St. James and Stacey developed some more songs. They eventually had to change the name because of copyright issues from producer Quincy Jones, who claimed that he had established the use of the Q moniker. Now, I don't know how you lay claim on the letter Q.
I think that SSQ is a better name anyway than just plain Q.
Yeah.
But I mean, neither one is a good name. But yeah, so they changed the name to SSQ.
Did Quincy Jones try to go after QAnon?
I
Quincy
mean,
Jones,
who knows? I hope so.
Anyway, so yeah, they renamed the band SSQ, SS standing for Stacey Swain, and they released their debut album Playback in 1983 on Enigma, which featured the single Syntheside. And I'm like, Syntheside, I got to check this out. And then I checked it out and I sent it to you, Matt. I'm like, this is really good. I like this. It felt like it was like 40 years ahead of like synth pop stuff that I hear now. Like I get a lot of synth pop stuff like in my playlists that they cater to me each week on Apple Music based on what I listen to. And when I heard Syntheside, I'm like, this seems like it's just like really ahead of its time. And then what I thought was really funny is that you were like, I know SSQ. I'm like, how on earth do you know SSQ? And he told me it was because of the song Tonight We Make Love Until We Die, which was from Return to the Living Dead.
Return Living Dead. So SSQ did most of the music for Return Living Dead. For those of you who don't know the movie Return to Living Dead, it is, fun fact, the first zombie movie where the zombies say the word brains. Wow. But it was written and directed by Dan O'Bannon, who wrote Alien and a bunch of other pretty big movies from the 70s and 80s. But what's noteworthy about it is that in 1985, the entire soundtrack is based around synth and punk rock bands of the era. So the soundtrack is SSQ, The Cramps, The Damned, The Tall Boys, 45 Graves, and a bunch of other horror punk and death rock bands, which was not the norm for like a mainstream movie to be pulling from like the LA punk scene to compose the soundtrack.
Yeah, I guess I've never seen that. I guess I should I watch that?
Return Living Dead is fun. You have to go into it knowing that it is being more fun than sincere.
Mm-hmm. This is gonna be like a horror movie night crossover because we're gonna talk about something else here in a minute too that has to do with horror movies. But as much as I liked Syntheside by SSQ, please go check that song out. Tonight We Make Love Until We Die from Return of the Living Dead. Not a good song. It's very bad. No. But apparently Matt saw his first naked woman while the song was playing.
Look, here's what I'm gonna say. I wouldn't say it was my first naked woman. That may have been like Starship Troopers or something. But it was the first time that I actively seeked out watching something because I knew that nudity was going to be there.
Yeah, okay.
I had heard about Return of the Living Dead I was starting to get into horror movies, and there was one specific website I used all the time called the Video Graveyard, and they raved about the movie all the time, and it was playing on Sci-Fi, and I started watching it, and I was like, this movie's stupid. But then all of a sudden, this song starts playing, Tonight We'll Make Love Till We Die, and Linnea Quigley's character of Trash starts talking about how her fantasy is to be ripped apart by a bunch of old men. And as she's telling that fantasy, she quickly rips off her top, and it's like, just as she tears it, it just cuts to the next scene. And I was like, well, I guess I got to rent this movie to find out what they had to cut there, knowing very well why that was cut for television. And then, yeah, the song plays as she does a striptease in the graveyard for all of the punk rock fans.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a good scene. I've met Linnea Quigley multiple times since.
Wow,
and
full
she's
circle.
lovely.
Full circle.
Yeah. So fun fact, her manager, huge fan of Horror Movie Night.
Wow, nice.
So whenever we're at a convention together, she's always like, let's get some photos of you guys with Linnea. And I'm like, okay.
Wow. Okay. Anyway, bringing it back to Stacey Q. In 1985, Stacey signed to Columbia, and she used the name Stacey Q. And she released her debut single called Shy Girl. It's funny, when you listen to it on YouTube, what comes up is like an image of Stacey Q's greatest hits that's out on Thump Records. I was like, wow, Stacey Q's greatest hits? Really? Thump Records? I don't know. I guess we'll get to that later.
Look, it is not hard to get a greatest hits release. There have been many artists we've done on this podcast that have greatest hits albums, and I'm not just talking about like a Rick Springfield.
All right. Well,
I'm talking like I'm pretty sure Chumbawamba and Baha Men both have had greatest hits albums released in their time.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, she had her initial EP was released on cassette, and it was a limited release, and that had an early version of Two of Hearts on it. But but Two of Hearts was originally released and performed by someone named Sue Gatlin. So I went and checked out, and she's one of the songwriters on it. Her and John Mitchell and Tim Green wrote Two of Hearts. So I went and listened to the Sue Gatlin version, and this is where it comes back around to horror movies. It was like 7+ minutes long. I'm like, geez. And it reminded me so much of how I, like in the past year or so, maybe at Halloween time, I saw, maybe it was on HBO or something. They had all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies on there. So I watched Nightmare on Elm Street 2. And in that movie, there's that song, Touch Me All Night Long. You know?
Yeah.
Touch me all night long. But not the Kathy Dennis version, like the dance club version from 1992. No, it was the original version by Wish and Fonda Rae, which I think was like early 80s, maybe even late 70s. Anyway, I'm like, man, I love this song when I'm watching the movie. So I added it to my playlist that, you know, has like 500 or 600 songs on it that, you know, I just I'll hit, you know, random song when I get in the car, and it's just all songs I like that I always add songs to. But every time that comes on, I'm like, oh my God, this song is 9 minutes long and it takes so long to get to the point. Why were these like synthy dance pop songs of the late 70s, early 80s? Why were they like 9 minutes long?
I can tell you that, actually. I think I have a good theory on that.
Okay.
Because you have to think about it. These songs were not... There was a reason why there was radio edits of all of these versions that you would hear. But when they were made for the club, when they're made for a bunch of people on some party drugs that just don't want the beat to ever end, and also, like, most of the time, it's not like there's too much happening. It's just that extended dance beat. So it's probably also there for the DJ to have a lot of space to, like, segue into whatever song they're about to, like, put on the other turntable to kind of change the tune. So I think a lot of those 80s dance club, and even into, like, the early 90s with, like, the Europop stuff, like, you would find... We'll bring it back to one of my favorites, Real McCoy. The Real McCoy album, there's Another Night, which is the version that you know, but then there's a separate track that's like the Another Night club mix, which is like essentially the same, but it's like a 7-minute version with like an extended like instrumental outro so that the DJ could just keep the beat going if the crowd was like really fucking loving what was happening.
I've never done any of those like party drugs like that, so maybe it's that if you're on one of those, ecstasy or something, you get into this like vibe of this song and you really want to stay there. Because I would think like if it was something like an upper that you would want to hear the next song. Oh, I can't wait for the next song or whatever. But maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe you just want to stay in that place. I don't know.
Maybe, I don't know. But I'm pretty sure that that's the reason why so many electronic and synthy club songs were very, very long. Was for that reason. So you had that constant bass thump go in,
right,
and then you could like use that to like, you know, either keep the beat going or mix into the next song simply.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway,
because even think about Blue Monday. Blue Monday is like an 8.5 minute long song, the original New Order version.
Oh,
because it's just like that. They just keep the like bass and instrumental going for like 4 minutes after the song's over.
Huh, interesting. It's kind of the opposite of what music is current day when we're recording this, where songs are like 2 minutes long.
Yeah, how dare you go over the 3-minute mark on a new song nowadays?
Yeah. Hey, I'm kind of down with that. I'm kind of okay with that.
Hey there, I am Johnny Christ from Avenged Sevenfold, and I've got a podcast called Drinks with Johnny you're going to want to check out. I sit down with a bunch of different people from all different walks of life, from professional wrestlers to actors, comedians, fighters, musicians. everything in between. I'm just looking to make some friends and have a good time doing it. So if that sounds like something you're into, go check out Drinks with Johnny, streaming everywhere now.
Ready for a head-bangingly good time? Dive into the world of heavy metal with the Brutally Delicious podcast. Here, we don't just talk music. We welcome you into our heavy metal family. Join us for candid chats with legends and rising stars. We go beyond the typical interviews, exploring raw emotions and the life-altering impact of heavy metal. So whether you're a diehard metalhead or just curious, join our family and let the headbanging begin with the Brutally Delicious podcast.
Hello everyone, we're Superhero Stuff You Should Know, and if you think you know about superheroes and comic books, think again.
We got romance. We got action.
Romance?
We got comedy. We got everything you need, man. Come on down to Superhero Stuff You Should Know for all your superhero needs.
I don't know about this romance. What part are you talking about?
We've got all kinds of sketches, and then deep dives on top of that. Come on down to Superhero Stuff You Should Know.
All right, so come on down to... Wait, why did I say come on down? To Superhero Stuff You Should Know.
So Stacey Q released her album Better Than Heaven, which I think is a great album title.
Yep.
The album only reached number 59, but it went gold in Australia. But Two of Hearts, of course, reached... Where'd it go? It go number 3?
It hit 3.
Three?
It hit number 3. Earlier a couple weeks ago, we were talking about Sean Mullins and his chart position and how we didn't know most of the songs in the top 10. This top 5, however, whew! So at number 5, you got Typical Male by Tina Turner.
Okay.
And number 4, you've got one of my favorite songs by Genesis, Throwing It All Away.
Oh, that is a good one.
Yeah. Number 3, you've got Two of Hearts by Stacey Q. Number 2, Glass Tiger, Don't Forget Me When I'm Gone.
Oh, good one.
Good ass song. And then the number 1 song was from your girl Janet with When I Think of You.
Oh, nice. That's a pretty solid top 5 right there.
That is from October 11th, 1986.
86 just kills it. 86 is up there as one of the best years. I know we always say 94 is the best, but 86, that's got to be a top 5 year. That's a great year.
It's a pretty solid year. And yeah, I mean, her song, I think, even though it peaked at number 3, I think I read that it went on to I think it was arguably the best-selling single of the entire year. Like, I think this was one of those songs that we've talked about before where the song itself never hit number 1, but it had like the long time staying power in the charts where it was just like always there.
Yeah.
I also read that apparently Weird Al wanted to do a parody of this and they declined it. I found no citation that I could find to explain that story, so I don't know where that came from.
I read that too. It said the songwriters declined, which that wouldn't be on Stacey Q. She didn't write it.
Yeah.
So.
I don't even know what he would do with it. I feel like it would probably maybe be in a polka, but like what parody would he do with Two of Hearts?
That'd be a good polka. I could hear this song as a polka. Two of Hearts, 2 hearts.
I need you.
Yeah. I hear it, man. I seriously hear it in my head right now. That's because, I don't know what else.
Like there's only a few words that rhyme with hearts, and I think most of them aren't classy enough for Weird Al.
Yeah, Weird Al would have to go blue. or brown, I guess you could say.
Yeah, he'd go real brown on this one.
Anyway, listen, I got to tell you, I was listening to this album while I was making breakfast this morning. I had it on, and this song came on called We Connect. And I'm like, I was like, I like this. This is good. I'm cooking my eggs. I'm bobbing my head. And then there was a moment where I was like, what? What did she just say? I seriously turned my head towards the speaker and I was like, what did I just hear? And so I rewound the song, and it's the chorus of the song. And this is a little bit of a taste of what's to come down the road with Stacey Q. But the lyrics to this, presented without comment, this is the chorus. We connect. When we're together, it's so perfect. Boy, you shock me with your white hot love. I start to overload. I explode when we connect. I was like, white hot love, overload, explode. Whoa, what is this? I mean, it's it's a lot. It's, especially, very, it's barely innuendo, I think. is how I would put it.
It barely innuendo is the perfect way to describe it. And We Connect was a minor hit for her. It did peak at 35 on the Billboard Hot 100. It's a good song.
Oh, it's 35 too. That's in the top 40, baby.
Yeah, she made top 40 on this, but I think we did read that Billboard considers a one-hit wonder more than one top 20 hit. We'll figure that out anyway.
Well,
look, VH1's got our back. They named her the 27th greatest one-hit wonder of the 80s.
For any Q followers out there, don't come at us because we called her a one-hit wonder.
Well, let's clarify which Q followers we're talking about.
I want to start telling people I follow Q. No, Stacey Q. Two of Hearts. We connect.
Did you happen to see on one of her later albums, she included some backup vocals by a group that we recently talked about on the podcast?
Oh, I did. Yes, the Weather Girls did. Yeah, that's on a later album. But also Timothy B. Schmidt did backup vocals on a song on that album too. She had some real heavy hitters on that album, no pun intended. I got to say, with the success of Two of Hearts, I mean, we already talked about this, but she parlayed that into a lot of TV appearances. She was on The Gong Show. She was on Hollywood Squares, which, hey, on like Pluto or Tubi or something, there's a channel that's plays like Hollywood Squares all the time. So I'm going to keep an eye out for Stacey Q on there. Yes, she appeared as Cinnamon on The Facts of Life, multiple episodes of Cinnamon, multiple episodes where she performed songs, which, think about that, man. At the time, most people had like 3 channels. Maybe in the 80s, some people had cable, but there were still just 3 main channels. One of them being, wow, I wonder what channel Facts of Life was on. If I had to guess, I would say Facts of Life seems like an NBC show to me.
All right, let me click and confirm.
I bet you it's NBC.
NBC?
Yeah, baby, right? Yeah. I bet you I'd be good at that game.
Facts of Life was one of the longest running sitcoms of the 80s from 1979 to 1988.
Wow.
I did not know that there was 9 seasons and 200 episodes of Facts of Life.
Wow, 200 episodes. But my point being that, like, that's a lot of people seeing Stacey Q perform her songs on there. Like, that, when she did Two of Hearts on there, she, like, does, it feels like the whole song. That's, like, it's at least 2 minutes or something. And the only plot moving thing is Tootie looking in the window. Like, I don't know why. I don't know what the backstory of her looking in the window at Stacey Q is there. Once again, I don't know what's going on, but
it's interesting to think. I was thinking about this because, like, on the grand scheme of things, she's doing, Stacey Q essentially did all of the things that we saw work for the pop artists of the 90s. You know what I mean? Like Britney Spears, Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, like all of those pop artists, it's like you couldn't escape them showing up on TV shows and like whatever. And I think that somehow that kept them in the public eye. And it, I mean, there was a lot of factors there. I am very baffled by the Stacey Q story in the sense of like, how are we even talking about this person on a podcast about one-hit wonders?
With how much she was on TV, how did she not have at least, I mean, I guess We Connect was kind of a hit, but yeah, it's surprising too that, like, you know, like you said, she's attractive. She reminds me of like not a Barbie and not a Bratz doll, but like one of those other like Barbie offshoots that were a little more edgy than Barbie, but not as far as Bratz. You know what I mean? She kind of looks like a human version of one of those.
Chris, real quick question. Did you happen to catch the name of what Stacey Q's final album was?
Oh, Hard Machine?
No.
Oh, Hard Machine was her next album.
Yeah, Hard Machine was her next album. Almost as if she was riding the Facts of Life nostalgia wave. In 2010, she put out her final album, Color Me Cinnamon.
Oh, wow. she's really banking on people remembering the cinnamon character. Hey, look, speaking of Facts of Life, Matt, did you watch Facts of Life at all?
No, I'm always aware of it. I know the theme song, obviously, because, you take the good, you take the bad, you take them both, and there you have the Facts of Life.
Yep.
But, I never really dove into the shows. I need to just download it. You have convinced me that I would spend way too much time on Pluto TV if I had it on my television.
Pluto's great.
So, so I got to download that.
Pluto and
get those.
And it's just like Tubi, except Pluto has a lot more live channels where it just plays one thing at all times.
See, that's what I want. I want do you remember Nickelodeon Gas when that was a channel you could get?
Yeah.
Where it was literally
I think that's on there. I think that,
even better.
I think there's a Nickelodeon. There's definitely Nickelodeon. There might be a Nickelodeon game shows channel.
Yeah, so that's what Nickelodeon Gas was. It was Game and Sports.
Uh-huh.
And it was just 24 hours of playing old episodes of Nick Arcade, Guts, Legends of the Hidden Temple. Basically any game show or sports show that they had for Nickelodeon's 90s and 80s and 90s, they just played on a nonstop loop.
Well, I think my point was why I asked you to watch Facts of Life. While we were just talking now, I was like, wow, I'm impressed. I think I remember all the girls' names. Tootie was who was looking in it at Stacey Q performing this song. Mindy was one of them. Joe was the motorcycle girl. She's into motorcycles and stuff. And Blair was the fashionable one. And then there was a boy. I don't know what the boy's name was, and then there was Mrs. something who took care of them. I think they were orphans. I think that's what was going on there.
The only reason I know Joe is, again, ties back to Scrubs, because it's my favorite show of all time. But there's in the last real season of Scrubs, they bring in a bunch of interns where the goal was that they would be the stars of the next season. But the one girl is a real tomboy. And Zach Braff's character is I'm going to give you the nickname of Joe because you remind me of that spunky, tough girl from Facts of Life.
Yep, Joe.
So I always connected. I always knew that Facts of Life had a character named Joe.
Nice. Hey, so look, also, a couple more things I want to talk about before we move on to where Stacey Q went. A couple more TV things I want to talk about. One, on her performance of the song Insecurity on that Howie Mandel show, her live band, it's so wild. One guy has a 2-neck guitar where half of the one neck is a guitar and the other neck is a keytar.
Yes, I saw that. That is amazing.
I don't even know what that thing's called, but I can't imagine. That'd be so awesome. Then she had just a keytarist and just a guitarist. But the one guy, now I didn't see it. I guess maybe the other guy, the other keytar was maybe he was playing bass on the keytar and then there was a drummer. But I just thought that instrument of a guitar / keytar was awesome. Wanted to note that. The thing about, she was on Full House. It was actually season 1 of Full House. I don't know if you remember this episode, Matt, but
no, I watched the clip, but I barely remember. I was floored by how young Mary Kate or Ashley Olsen, whichever one was playing Michelle.
That was very young, baby. That was very young.
I was
baby.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
No wonder. They've been working since they were 4 months old.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. I mean, they were little babies. And it was the episode DJ and Kimmy Gibbler are waiting in line at a record store to get Stacey Q's autograph. They get her autograph, but then I guess Joey was watching them and didn't allow them to go. So they snuck out and went anyway. So they see Joey shows up because he's going to get the autograph for them. They hide behind a Stacey Q cutout, but then Michelle, who's on a leash with Joey, who's talking to some other big-haired girl in the line, walks over and sees them and does a surprised expression, and the whole audience laughs, and then she walks over there and they're trying to get her to walk away, and then Joey busts them for being there. But you might remember that.
There was a good Kimmy line in there where Stacey asks who she should make the autograph out for. And she says it's Kimmy with 2 M's and a Y, also a K and I, but not in that specific order.
Kimmy's cool. Not, I mean,
I like Kimmy.
it sucks that DJ turned out so shitty when she got older.
Yeah.
What's up with that? Those Camerons, they suck. They suck real bad.
A lot of those 80s TV stars, like there's some great ones, but there's a lot that turn real bad.
Stephanie Tanner ended up being really cool when she got older. She's cool.
Yeah.
I just don't understand, like, DJ, you would have thought that she'd have grown up as like this, I don't know, probably like teen idol in a way to, you know, influence for young girls and so beloved. Why'd she grow up to be shitty? What's up with that?
Who knows? Man, funk that.
Man, fuck
that. Well, Chris, before we get to the Thunder Blunder portion of our show, I do have to ask, one of our, do you have any words for Stacey Q if she's listening to us as part of one of our new favorite segments of the show?
Yes, I do. Hey, Stacey, what's up? I'm Chris. Nice to meet you. Thanks for listening. Big fan of the song Two of Hearts. Just big fan of your career in general. I love all your television appearances. I like to think that if I were in your shoes, I would do the same thing. That seems like so much fun to go on all these shows. I forgive you about the elephant thing, although I'm sure that you probably loved the elephant. I'm sure that you thought the elephant was really nice, even though, you know, maybe we shouldn't be keeping elephants like that, but I'm sure that you were always nice to the elephant. And, you know, hey, no judgment or anything, but you seem like you were a pretty small person, so you weren't probably like a big weight on the elephant's back or anything like that. I don't think you were personally causing the elephant any pain. I just think Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey in general were causing elephants pain. But we're not gonna focus on that. I like a lot of your music. I know that you were. I got to tell you real quick. I'll interrupt myself. I love the titles of your albums. I mean, we didn't talk about it, but Hard Machine in 1988. When you got a little more punk rock after that. You got a new haircut. You went from blonde to red hair. And, you know, I love that you got the Weather Girls involved. We love the Weather Girls over here at One Hit Thunder. Love that Timothy B. Schmidt, great bassist, awesome backing vocalist. I would go straight to Timothy B. Schmidt if I could have anyone do backing vocals on an album. Also love that you were part of the Bone Crushers on Mama's Family, another show that you were on. I think it's really cool. I think it's pretty funny that in 1993 you released Too Hot for Love on Thump Records. You really got into the early 90s dance sound. I really like how the first lyric of that song is, "Do you like my behind?" really like that you used the word behind. Thought that was, you know, a classy move for a pretty sexual song. And then in 1997, I like how you reinvented yourself on the Boomerang album. You know, I liked how you reflected on your experiences in Tibet, and as well as your conversion to Buddhism. I thought it was a big turn that I wasn't expecting in your career. I was really surprised that your cover of the Janice Ian song Tenderness reached number 5 on the Jamaican charts. When I put it on, I was really surprised because I was like, oh, she must have done a reggae version. And I was like, nope. This isn't reggae at all. It sounds like you would be playing at the Lilith Fair. I don't really understand why it was a hit in Jamaica, but I'm glad it was. And I just want to say that I think it's really, really cool. Your career is very interesting. I'll always love your version of Two of Hearts. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the episode. Love you, Stacey.
All right. Well, with that, Chris, I think it's time for us to decide Thunder or Blunder. You picked this, so I feel like we already kind of know where you're going to lean, but I'm going to go Thunder on Stacey Q. If no other reason, I love Return of the Living Dead, and she's up in that soundtrack too, and Two of Hearts is a good jam. We Connect was a great jam. Like, I would pick, here's the barometer that we all know that I use. When I'm up in Pittsburgh, if this is at the used CD outlet, I'll grab a copy of it.
Will you pick me up a copy of it if you see it?
I'll grab you one too. If they have her whole discography, I'll make sure we're both covered.
Yeah, I'll Venmo you the $3 or whatever. Yeah, I'm gonna go Thunder on Stacey Q. You know, I follow Q, and I got to say one other thing that is strange, Matt, that I experience in this. Now, Stacey Q, she's about my parents' age. And what I always find to be really wild when we do these episodes is that there's a lot of artists, if you like them, you kind of grow with them. You see them grow older and whatever. And some of these, when we do episodes, it's like you see them as a young version of themselves, and then you see the older version of themselves in an instant. Like you see 40 years pass with a click of a mouse. You see 40 years pass. That is strange. Do you ever notice that like you see it a person's entire life that you weren't along for the ride, and then you see the young version, then you see the older version like instantaneously? Isn't that strange?
That is definitely a weird. I experienced that. I feel like now, almost in reverse, where it's like doing podcasting and meeting people for the first time in their like 30s and 40s, and then you like add them on social media or whatever, and they'll do like a throwback photo, and you're just like, oh, that's what you looked like 30 years ago. Never knew that. Good to know. Like, I've only seen you as the 40-year-old version. I think that a lot of the times when you post throwback photos for the Punchline podcast, it's like, that's not a Chris I know.
Wow.
I've never met this Chris.
Wow. That's interesting. I feel like I haven't met that Chris either. You remember when we had Eric on? He talked about the Woodstock 94 experience?
Yeah, from Huffamoose, Eric Johnson.
Yeah, he said the same kind of thing when he watched a documentary of himself. He's like, I don't know that person.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel that way to a certain extent. The ways I thought, ways I behaved, not that they were like awful or something, just not how I would act now, not how I really look now or whatever. So yeah, it's just something I wanted to make note of when I was doing the Stacey Q stuff today. And, it's just like, looking at Stacey Q and not saying she's still attractive, or whatever, but just looking at her and then looking at her and be like, oh, she's my parents. She's the same age as my parents. Like that's wild. I'm looking at her as a person who's much younger than me. And then I'm looking at her as a person that's older than me, all within a matter of a click. And I think that's pretty wild, but we'll always love Stacey Q.
This tape, soundtrack to my brain.
This has been One Hit Thunder. One Hit Thunder is hosted by Chris Falios of the bands Punchline, Pack, and Another Cheetah, and produced by Matt Kelly of Geekscape.net. Underneath me, you're hearing Rewind off the Punchline EP of the same name. Be sure to check out punchline.com for information on new music, shows, and merch. Our podcast is on Patreon now. Find us at patreon.com/OHT podcast for early access to episodes, bonus conversations, and a chance to vote for future songs for us to cover. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to us on any podcasting app, and tune in next week for more One Hit Thunder.
You're mine, so why can't you understand my mind? You've gone way too far tonight. You've gone way too far tonight. You look confused.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.
Hi, podcast listeners. I'm Carol Costello, a former CNN anchor and national correspondent. This January, I'm launching a podcast about one of the first cases I ever covered as a journalist. It's one that stuck with me all of these years, the one that buried itself under my skin and stayed put. It's a true crime series about an amazing woman named Phyllis Cottle, who defied torture and death and brought a fierce rage to the quest to find her attacker. Carol Costello presents Blind Rage. It's a production of Evergreen Podcasts and signature title of the Killer Podcast Network. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Discover more great true crime and paranormal programming at killerpodcast.com.
Ready for a head-bangingly good time? Dive into the world of heavy metal with the Brutally Delicious podcast. Here, we don't just talk music. We welcome you into our heavy metal family. Join us for candid chats with legends and rising stars. We go beyond the typical interviews, exploring raw emotions and the life-altering impact of heavy metal. So whether you're a diehard metalhead or just curious, join our family and let the headbanging begin with the Brutally Delicious Podcast.